Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 11th episode of Story in which the third Hokage finally resolves to do something about Naruto's treatment, and he seeks the assistance of someone known for influencing things from the shadows. When Naruto has everything he needs, including an elder brother who will do anything to protect him, what could possibly go wrong? Please subscribe and smash the like button. Now, let's jump right in.
Naruto followed lazily behind Sasuke, as he had been doing for a few hours now. Neither of them really had any idea on where to go, and to be honest, neither of them cared where they ended up. There had been a tense silence between the two for the past 2 days now, ever since Kakashi had assigned them together as a team. Today was their day for scouting the village, and just as Izo and Sakura had found, there was literally nothing of interest happening amongst the civilian population. There had been a few instances of thugs picking on some unfortunate individual, but those were quickly ignored by the two Genin. They were not here to deal with petty squabbles, and they did not need to draw any attention to themselves just yet. Unfortunately, their mere existence as shinobi was more than enough to warrant attention from most people. Sasuke in particular had been quite irritated with the lack of anything worthwhile happening, if only due to his somewhat damaged pride thanks to the beating he took from the hunter nin. Naruto himself was quite happy with the peace and quiet they were being forced to suffer through. It gave him time to think and attempt to plan ahead on specific matters, namely the assassination of Gato and the potential interference of Akatsuki. It had been a good thing that Yagura had supplied him and the Hokage with some information on the group, along with the information they had already accumulated thanks to the efforts of some unknown third party. Naruto already knew that the old man knew who the person was, but decided to keep out of it for the time being. If the Hokage trusted them, then he saw no reason to worry. It was just odd that Jiraiya, Konoha's spy master, had not come forth with any news on the mercenary group, at least as far as Naruto was aware. So far, there had been nothing to find in regards to anyone matching the description of an Akatsuki member, all of whom were apparently easily recognized by a black cloak with red clouds. Personally, the blonde thought it was kind of stupid to have an entire group of S-rank missing nin wear such identifying clothes, but he was not one to judge. He himself was technically an S-rank shinobi, and he too wore extremely recognizable clothing, so if he did make a comment about Akatsuki, he would be a hypocrite. Still, couldn't Akatsuki have just left its members to sort out their own clothing options so they weren't all so easily noted as working together? Naruto, Sasuke said suddenly, drawing the blonde out of his inner musings. Glancing over to the Uchiha lazily, Naruto raised an eyebrow questioningly. Yeah? That jutsu you used? Against the hunter nin? What was it? Sasuke asked. Great flame vortex. I thought I yelled it out pretty loudly. Why do you want to know? Naruto asked in a bored tone. Sasuke clenched his fist tightly and mumbled something incoherent. Naruto almost chuckled at the sight. The great Sasuke Uchiha, mumbling something under his breath like a common child, to him, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and scorn of Konoha. Oh, if only he had a camera, he could make the scene last an eternity. You might need to speak up on that one, Sasuke. Even with my enhanced hearing, I still couldn't understand a word you said. The Uchiha stopped walking, as did Naruto, and he took a deep breath to calm himself. He despised himself for what he was about to do, what he was reducing himself to doing. But he reminded himself of why he was doing so, what his goal was, and more importantly, why things as petty as pride could not get in the way of said goal. Will you teach it to me? Sasuke asked calmly and clearly, although the mental and physical strain was still glaringly obvious. Naruto hummed thoughtfully as he closed his eyes and stroked his chin as if he had a beard. Sasuke's sweat dropped as he finally remembered just whom he had asked for help. Sure, Naruto chirped suddenly before continuing with his casual walk through the village. Sasuke was wide-eyed for a few seconds before he quickly moved to catch up to the blonde. Wait, so, that's it? You're just going to agree to help me? The onyx-eyed boy asked incredulously. The Jinchuriki nodded. Yep. I was actually going to ask if you wanted me to throw you a couple of fire jutsu in our spare time, but you beat me to the punch. I'm just glad you didn't demand me to teach you, because I would be required, by pride, to bitch slap you, he replied casually, grinning widely at his last comment. That sounds like something your brother would do, Sasuke droned, although he was very glad that he had swallowed his pride and not demanded from the blonde. There was only so much humiliation he could endure in one mission. You live with him for 6 years and see if you don't pick up some bad traits, I dare you, Naruto said warningly. Now, as for the jutsu I used on the hunter nin. You would need to train a little more before you try that one. Your chakra control should be up for it, You just need to build up your reserves. In the meantime, I have a few lower level ones you could practice with. Sasuke stared at the blonde suspiciously. Why are you being so nice all of a sudden? Naruto sighed and stopped walking, turning to Sasuke with a serious expression. Look, Sasuke. I don't like you, and I think we can both agree that you don't like me, or anyone else for that matter. Now I don't personally care if we continue to resent each other for the rest of our lives, but I do care about us as a team. If you were to, let's say die, I would more than likely take the blame. That is sort of what I get stuck with for being the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki. So, in order to keep myself from being blamed, and to keep some other interested parties happy, I will go out of my way to help you, but only so long as you don't cause me any problems. Hopefully you will extend the same kindness to me sometimes. The Uchiha was silent for a little while as he fully digested everything Naruto had said. It was an admittedly new experience for someone to so openly express their dislike for him while also agreeing to help him if he needed it. He did have to admit though, it was a very good deal, one he would have to be stupid not to accept. If all it took was for him to return the favor every now and then he was more than happy to go along with it, at least until he no longer saw any benefit in it. What do you wish to start with? Sasuke asked, earning a grin from Naruto. All in good time. We should head back to the house and check up on the others. There is literally nothing happening here and I doubt that will be changing anytime soon. Once we are back, I will evaluate you and go from there. I wouldn't worry though, you are more than capable of learning most of what I could teach you, the blonde explained casually. Sasuke nodded and they both began the short journey back to Tezuno's house. Sasuke, however, still had some questions floating around his mind that he felt needed to be answered, if only to sate his own curiosity. What is it like being a Jinchuriki? The Uchiha asked curiously, his eyes studying Naruto intently as he waited for the blonde's answer. To be perfectly honest, not that great, Naruto replied with a shrug. All of us have to put up with being despised in some way by our own village, even though we can't help what we are. Some of us get trained to be weapons, nothing but simple tools of war for their cage to use without a care. Sure, we get immense chakra and some other benefits from it, me probably being the best off in that regard, but in the end, it's not really worth it. Sasuke furrowed his brow. But all that power. You have so much power inside of you that you can use for whatever you want. Surely it feels slightly worth it, he said almost hopefully. There are more important things than power, the blonde said simply. Even a fleeting memory of happiness is worth more than what I gained from the Kyuubi. You should understand this better than most. Sasuke, what is that supposed to mean? The Uchiha growled. Naruto sighed deeply. Sasuke, you had a family once, a family that loved you and were there for you. Yes, you lost them, and that's horrible, but you still knew them, and in a way, those memories of what's lost help keep you centered. Now imagine, just for a moment, if you never knew them. What would you feel if you didn't have those memories? Until I was 7, I honestly considered that my parents had abandoned me, left me to fend for myself, all because of what was sealed inside me. And even now, when I know the truth, I can't help but wish I could give everything up for just one happy memory of them. Sasuke was in a bit of inner turmoil as Naruto spoke. At first, he had been angry that the blonde could talk so casually to him about his family dying, as if he knew what it felt like, but his anger quickly faded as Naruto continued to explain. He realized that Naruto probably understood his pain better than anyone ever could. In fact, the blonde more than likely had it harder than he did in some aspects. So when Naruto turned to him a happy grin, Sasuke knew that any complaints he could make would merely be him preaching to the choir. Sometimes, Sasuke, all the power in the world can mean absolutely nothing when you can't use it to get what really matters, Naruto said cheerfully, his grin never leaving his face. And what really matters to you? Sasuke asked in confusion. If he had been in Naruto's place, he would have been after revenge on all of those who had wrongfully scorned him. He probably wouldn't even want anything to do with Konoha in general. Yet here he was, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, happily going about his life as a Jonin with barely a care in the world. Naruto shrugged. I don't know, he said stupidly. I guess love and friendship would be the appropriate answer, but I'm very tempted to say ramen. Sasuke deadpanned at the blonde. You were planning on saying that all along, weren't you? He drawled irritably. Naruto smiled smugly and took off towards the house. Sasuke grunted in annoyance and took off after him, although the smallest of smiles did manage to worm its way onto his face. He had to hand it to him, Naruto sure knew how to put someone through a small roller coaster of emotions. His smile quickly fell however, and a scowl took its place as he remembered what his brother had said to him on the night he had killed their entire clan. Friendship? He scoffed mentally. Sounds ridiculous. But I guess we will just have to wait and see, he thought to himself as he caught up to Naruto. Sparing a quick glance at his teammate, he smirked. He supposed he could try a different approach to things. For now. It didn't take them long to get back to the house, but what they found there was a surprise. They could see Kakashi leaning up against a tree with one arm in a sling and the other holding onto his favorite orange-covered book. The surprising part of what they were seeing involved Sakura, who was running up and down one of the nearby trees. Judging from how sweaty and exhausted she looked, Naruto and Sasuke assumed she had been doing it for a while. They would have been further surprised had they learned she had been doing it for that past 40 minutes or so. Walking up to Kakashi, Naruto waved to the Jonin cheerfully. "Hey Kakashi-sensei," he greeted happily. "Hello, Naruto, Sasuke. How did the recon go?" Kakashi asked lazily. "Same as yesterday. There is literally nothing happening in the village. No word of Gato, nothing about Zakira, and the same for Tazna. If it weren't for his goons occasionally showing up around the place, I would have guessed that Gato had left," Sasuke replied. Oh well. It has been 2 days now without any sign of something happening. I think we should prepare to actually go looking for our client, if only to verify if he's dead," the Jonin said casually, turning a page of his book as he went. "Such optimism," Naruto drawled. Kakashi giggled perversely at his book before looking curiously at Naruto. "Do you know where Izo is? He disappeared this morning and I haven't seen any trace of him since." Naruto let his shoulders slump as he thought over the past 2 days. Nothing truly interesting had happened, except for the fact that Tsunami kept babying Izo every chance she got. It had been amusing at first, to see the older teen being ordered not to do anything he didn't have to by the civilian woman, but the novelty had worn off quickly. Now it just bordered on the peculiar. Naruto, of course, knew Tsunami's reason for doing what she did, even if it was a little over the top and almost made him truly regret letting her fix Izo's stitching. Almost. Yeah, Izo is probably just hiding from Tsunami at the moment. I'm sure you can agree that being a shinobi and getting treated like a child are two things that simply don't work out well. I am surprised he hasn't thrown a hissy fit, the blonde replied with a grin. I would like to think you held me in higher regard than to assume I would have a hissy fit, Izo muttered irritably from his now revealed hiding place in the tree right above everyone. How long have you been up there? Kakashi asked with a slightly narrowed eye. Izo grinned. Long enough, sensei, long enough, he said as he dropped down to the ground. Not really though. I've only really been here since Sakura asked for some help, he added flippantly. Sakura asked you for help? Naruto asked skeptically. Judging by his expression, Sasuke was thinking much the same thing. Well, something like that. She asked if I could speed up her recovery in any way, which I could, and then she asked what I would suggest she do to get stronger. Izo gestured to the pinkhead who was still running up and down a tree. With some simple seals, I managed to give her a temporarily recovered state and rapidly regenerating chakra reserves, both of which she is now currently using to increase her stamina and physical strength. I give her another hour before she hits the ground like a bonefish. Are you sure that's even safe to do? I mean, she only really got back to just walking around yesterday, Naruto said in concern. Izo shrugged. It's not like she's going to die. I think. Just look on the bright side. Something has clearly motivated her into doing something other than trying to look pretty. You mean like when she was quite nearly dead? Sasuke droned. Sure, let's go with that. So long as no one suspects foul play from me, Naruto rolled his eyes. Whatever. I'm going to be helping Sasuke out a little bit for the afternoon, so we're just letting you know that you can expect us later on. Keep an eye out. Okay Izo, he said seriously. Izo waved off the boy's statement flippantly while Kakashi simply nodded in understanding. The Jonin had been informed of the potential of a far more dangerous enemy being within the area. He had not been given much more information than that though, so he was still left to speculate for the most part. For now, he simply knew to keep an eye out for anyone wearing a black cloak with red clouds, and to run away should he spot them. Kakashi wasn't fond of being told to run away, but a quick mention of it being Hokage's orders had made him comply. The Jinchuriki let out a deep breath and relaxed a little. Now that he was most definitely within Izo's sensor range, he felt far more at ease. There was very little that Izo wouldn't be able to pick up when he was focused, which Naruto knew he was ever since he had mentioned the possibility of Akatsuki. Turning to Sasuke, he gestured for the Uchiha to follow him as he began walking to a nearby clearing that was just far enough into the small expanse of trees so as to be classified as private. They didn't really need privacy, but Naruto didn't want to risk Sakura going fangirl on them and becoming a major distraction. Reaching the clearing, the blonde quickly stopped and pulled out a kunai, a small bottle of water with a metal dish, and a small handful of senbon. Kneeling down, He stabbed the senbon into the ground to form a small circle formation about a foot in diameter while stabbing the kunai into the center of them. After that, he simply filled the small metal dish with water and handed it to a perplexed Sasuke before gesturing him to sit down next to the senbon circle. Alright, Sasuke. Before I try to teach you something, I am going to show you a couple of neat training exercises for your chakra control. Naruto began casually. But I already know chakra control exercises, Sasuke interrupted. Yes, I'm sure you do. But these ones are a little more special. Now, thanks to a little digging, and a brief check from Mizo, I know that you possess an affinity for both fire and lightning, in rather equal amounts too, surprisingly. So, I'm going to show you 2 chakra control exercises that will help you train those elements respectively. I don't expect you to master them anytime soon, but they will help nonetheless, the blonde lectured calmly. The dish of water should be self-explanatory. Try and use fire chakra to boil the water until there is nothing left, while also controlling it so you don't burn your hand or melt the dish. I'm insisting you don't melt it since I will not be dishing out the money to buy you anymore. Naruto chuckled lightly. Get it? Sasuke glared at Naruto. Don't make stupid puns, he growled crossly. Geez, learn to live a little. Anyway, that's for your fire chakra. The other exercise is a little trickier. You are to use your lightning chakra to try and magnetize the kunai enough to pull the senbon around it to the center. Wouldn't that require the jitten? Sasuke asked. Normally, yes. But you aren't going to be learning how to manipulate magnetic fields or create them with your chakra. This is merely using a material as a medium to create a magnetic field. You won't have any real control over it aside from how strong it is, and once you let go of it, it will lose that property very quickly, Naruto explained, gesturing for Sasuke to go ahead and try one of them out. Sasuke cockily reached for the dish of water first. He knew that his fire chakra was leagues better than his lightning, and so he figured he should have no issues with making some water boil. He also wanted to show off a little to the blonde, something he knew he would fail at if he tried the lightning chakra exercise first. So, with a small metal dish in hand, he began to channel his fire chakra into it in an attempt to boil the water as fast as he could. He completely missed Naruto's smirk as he made the rookie mistake. Ah! The Uchiha hissed in pain as he dropped the dish. Naruto stifled a laugh as he calmly picked it back up, apparently not being affected by the fact that it was still hot metal, and quickly poured some water over it to cool it down. Once it was only slightly warm, he refilled it and held it atop the fingertips of his right hand, gesturing with his left for Sasuke to watch and listen. That, Sasuke, was the wrong thing to do. Unlike with the lightning exercise, you are not trying to use anything as a medium to accomplish the goal. The aim of this is simple: control your chakra and converge it on a single point of the dish, then use that point as a target to push the rest of your chakra through it and into your actual target, the water. If you do this, then you should be able to leave the dish intact and not unbearably hot, while also letting your chakra boil the water to prove his point. Naruto held the dish up as he focused on pumping his own fire nature chakra through his fingers and into the metal dish. Molding it into the center of the dish, he pushed the chakra through the metal and into the water. It took a few moments, but the water quickly reached boiling point before Naruto cut the chakra flow. Looking up, he wasn't at all surprised to see the somewhat jealous expression of the Uchiha. But he wasn't done yet. If you get good enough, you can even do this, he said suddenly as he surged his chakra back into the water, only this time he pushed it a little further, coating the surface of the water. Sasuke's eyes widened in surprise as Naruto casually breathed out a small stream of flame onto the water, only for the water's surface to ignite and maintain the flame. The blonde smirked as he held the small dish full of ignited liquid. Judging from Sasuke's expression, he safely assumed that he had the other boy hook, line, and sinker. So long as he kept giving him hints, tips, and the occasional training exercise or jutsu, Naruto wouldn't have to worry about him. Cutting off his chakra, Naruto tipped the water out and put the flame out. Placing the dish down for the moment, he pointed to the kunai and senbon. Try the lightning one now, he ordered coolly. The Uchiha grunted. Reaching over, he gripped the kunai loosely and began channeling his chakra into it. It became hilariously obvious that he had never tried to mold anything other than his fire chakra as the grass around the kunai began to dry out and burn slightly. Sasuke merely got irritated by this and continued to pump more and more chakra into the kunai. Naruto couldn't help but shake his head at his teammates' antics. As far as fire chakra went, it was good, but it was the wrong element. Okay, Naruto said, halting Sasuke's further attempts. How about we just focus on fire for now? You already know how to use that element, so it should be somewhat of a cakewalk for you. I myself don't have an affinity for lightning, so I can't really help you in that regard except for telling you what I've seen Izo doing to train his. If you ever wish to delve into it though, I would suggest asking Kakashi. He is supposed to be quite adept at lightning techniques, Naruto suggested. Sasuke nodded in understanding. Normally he would still be angry at not being able to do it, but Naruto had actually pointed him a good direction for how to get it done. He would have to ask Kakashi about lightning chakra later on, but for now, he would listen to Naruto and stick to fire. So, what now? Sasuke asked curiously. Naruto tilted his head curiously. What do you mean what now? He asked in confusion. What's the next step? Naruto just stared at Sasuke for several tense moments before laughing straight in the boy's face. You actually think that you're ready for the next step? He managed to say between laughing fits. He froze, however, when he noticed Sasuke's intense glare. Oh, you're serious, he said in surprise. Yes, Naruto, I'm serious, Sasuke growled. Getting a hold of himself, Naruto calmly tossed a small scroll to the Uchiha and stood up. In that scroll are several more bottles of water. Continue working on the first step until you can boil the water down to nothing in less than 5 minutes. Once you manage that, then you can move on to the next step, which I will not reveal until you reach it. Sasuke actually pouted at that but quickly went about getting things ready to continue with the chakra exercise. If there was one thing that it was committed. He was also quite persistent and stubborn, but those worked in his favor when it came to fire chakra. Naruto simply let Sasuke get back to work as he began walking back to the house. He figured that he could use some of his spare time to help Tsunami out around the house. It was the least he could do for her right now. There was also the fact that he was waiting for something and didn't want to be caught in the middle of any training, but that was just a minor formality. A nice hot bowl of ramen sounds pretty damn good right about now, he thought to himself, drooling slightly at the idea of food. And with that thought, he disappeared in the sunshine of red leaves, leaving Sasuke to his own devices. Several hours later, Naruto let out a content sigh as he relaxed against the trunk of a tree. It was nearing sundown and so he had decided to take this time to revel in the dying light of the day. It was one of the few things he had learned to appreciate and be patient with after all the times he spent atop the Hokage monument. Actually, he really needed to spend some more time sitting on the fourth's head, especially now that he knew that the Ondaime was in fact his father. Back when he was younger, he had simply sat on his head because he thought he was the coolest of the Hokage. Anyway, it wasn't long before his moment of tranquility was interrupted by a small popping sound and a sudden weight on his lap. Glancing down, he was met with the ever-inquisitive stare of a small white fox. He was somewhat thankful of the ranking system that the Fox clan held, all of them being, funnily enough, color-coded to jobs. White foxes were the messengers of the clan, and while the other foxes could be used for it, the white foxes were faster and far more efficient. This, however, was simply because the other types of foxes didn't put the task of message delivery in high priority, hence the slower time. Reaching down, Naruto scratched the small fox behind its ears, earning a grateful look from the creature. It quickly nudged his hand and dropped a very small scroll into his open palm. Naruto smiled and nodded to the fox before it nodded back and seemed to simply get sucked into nothingness with another small popping sound, no cloud of smoke left in its wake. That was one of the weirder things that he had learned about summons clans. Each summon clan seemed to specialize in something that they could then teach to their summoners. The Monkey clan specialized in Bojutsu, the Toads specialized in Senjutsu, the Slugs in healing techniques, and even the Snakes specialized in espionage to a certain extent. The Foxes had originally specialized in space/time jutsu, until they began to branch off from that and learn many of the things that the other clans specialized in. Their knowledge in space/time ninjutsu had helped him a lot in mastering the Hiraishin after Izo had set up the sealing matrix for him to perform it. Amazingly enough, space/time jutsu were not, in fact, limited to ninjutsu and fuinjutsu as so many had assumed. It was actually a rather broad field that could be utilized alongside many of the shinobi art categories. In some cases, shinobi were capable of performing mild space/time manipulation, usually to further empower their techniques, or to use a technique that would otherwise be impossible to perform. The variability of space/time jutsu was also the reason for there being 3 elders of the Fox clan. Kaku was the official boss due to him being the most powerful in the ways of actual combat, him being the elder of the space/time ninjutsu branch. Shiara and Nami were both Kaku's mates, both holding their own respectable position and possessing incredible power of their own. Shiara was the elder of the Fuinjutsu branch, while Nami was the elder of the Genjutsu branch. Each of them were the strongest of their respective fields, and when together, were said to be unbeatable. Naruto had earned a major beatdown when he had first heard about this and snorted at their claim. Shaking his head at that particular memory, not exactly wanting to experience the phantom pains of the brutal event, Naruto quickly opened the small scroll. Reading it a few times to commit it completely to memory, he smiled and breathed a small stream of flame onto the parchment, erasing the message but leaving the scroll completely undamaged. Rolling it back up, he pumped a small amount of chakra into a small seal printed on one end of the scroll and watched as it simply got sucked into nothingness like the fox that delivered it had done. Having the messenger foxes under the guidance of Shihara did have its benefits. Few in Jutsu made things far more simple. The blonde sweat dropped suddenly as he felt his brother tapping him on the head from his sitting place on the tree. "What do you want, Izo?" Naruto asked calmly, looking up at the older teen as he sat on the vertical surface. "What did it say?" Izo inquired almost seriously. Naruto grinned. "He's on his way. Judging from where he was when I sent the message, he should be here at some point tomorrow," he replied. "Oh, so he was close by. That's good then. I dislike making him travel too far," Izo said with a cheeky grin. "You know he would try to kill you if he heard you say that," Naruto said in a matter-of-fact tone. "Hey, that's nothing compared to what I have planned for when he gets here. I've been planning for this for weeks," the older teen said excitedly. "I am not saving you this time," the blonde drawled. "Whatever then," Izo waved him off dismissively. "Anyway, we should probably go inside now. It is rude to be late for a meal after all." Naruto nodded in agreement at that before quickly getting to his feet and following his brother to the house. As they both entered, they were met with the peculiar sight of Sakura lying on a couch in the fetal position, clutching at her stomach in what seemed to be a decent amount of pain. Kakashi was keeping a lazy eye on the girl, but didn't seem too concerned. Sasuke was nowhere to be seen, and Tsunami was in the kitchen if the smell of food was anything to go by. What's up with her?" Naruto asked Kakashi, pointing at the pained Sakura. Kakashi almost chuckled but fought back the urge. "She is simply experiencing the result of today's training. Apparently she did not factor in the muscle strain and workout she would be putting herself through by running up and down a vertical surface," he answered in amusement. "Sensei. It hurts." Sakura whined pitifully. "Hang in there, Sakura. It will pass eventually. Just take it a bit easy for now," the Jonin said. Naruto let out a sigh. "Izo, please sort her out," he droned tiredly. Izo nodded enthusiastically and pulled out one of his short swords from under his coat. "Sure thing," he said cheerfully. The Jinchuriki quickly grabbed his brother by the arm and halted his walk. "With a medical jutsu, you idiot," Izo grinned sheepishly. "Right. I knew that." Naruto shook his head and walked to the kitchen to see if Tsunami needed any help, while Izo fixed up Sakura and got her ready for dinner. The woman had been surprisingly adamant about not needing any help with household chores, saying something about it not being worth him wasting his time on. The sad fact of it was that Naruto had literally nothing else to do, as his own training would require him revealing too much, and so he had actually hoped to help do at least some menial tasks around the house. Unfortunately, he was having no such luck in that regard. Around 20 minutes later found all of Team 7 sitting around the dinner table, Sakura having finally stopped complaining about her muscle pain, and Sasuke having finally returned to the house, albeit a bit worse for wear. The Uchiha had apparently burned his hand rather badly while trying to master the chakra exercise and was now reduced to having to soak said appendage in a bowl of cold water. Kakashi had been a little surprised to hear that Naruto was helping Sasuke with nature manipulation, but had quickly shrugged it off and offered to lend a hand when he could. Naruto and Izo were sitting on the same side as Sasuke, this being unofficially dubbed the boys' side by Izo, while Kakashi, Sakura, and Tsunami all sat on opposite them, their side having been dubbed the Menage a Trio's side. That title had earned a perverted chuckle from Kakashi, a deeply embarrassed blush from Tsunami, and a confused glare from Sakura, who, while unsure of exactly what that meant, knew she should not be happy about it. Inari was sitting at one of the ends of the table, spending most of his time glaring openly at the shinobi as opposed to actually eating. Izo had dubbed it as the grumpy seat. It was a somewhat tense dinner, with no one actively engaging in conversation. Even Izo had chosen to be surprisingly quiet for the whole time. Eventually though, as the meal came to an end, Inari decided to finally break the silence by slamming his fist onto the table and glaring at the members of Team 7. "Why even bother?" he spat. "You're all just going to die anyway, so why try?" Sakura and Sasuke stared at the boy in surprise and a little bit of irritation at being so easily written off by the boy. Kakashi just glanced at the boy lazily before pulling out his book and went about reading quietly. Naruto and Izo simply acted as if they hadn't heard a single thing. Tsunami stared at her son sadly, but also with a hint of warning. as if she truly didn't want him to continue with what he was no doubt going to say. This, however, did nothing to deter the young boy. Gato is too strong. You couldn't beat him no matter how hard you try. You already lost my grandfather to him, so why are you still even here? Inari asked heatedly. But we are going to get him back, Sakura insisted. You shouldn't have let him get taken in the first place. The boy snapped angrily. Inari, Tsunami said warningly. No. How can they come here and act as if nothing is wrong? He yelled, turning back to glare at the team. You don't know what you're talking about. Trust me, there is worse that could be happening, Sasuke replied irritably through gritted teeth, clenching his fist almost painfully. What do you know? You have no idea what we're going through. You have no idea what real suffering is like, Inari yelled angrily. Sasuke finally snapped and threw the bowl of water his burnt hand was in, breaking it against the wall before standing up and stomping angrily out of the room and eventually the house, leaving a stunned Team 7 in his wake. Sakura glared at Inari, but otherwise didn't do anything. Kakashi just kept a wary eye on everyone for caution. Even he had not really expected the kind of reaction from Sasuke, so he was not leaving anyone else's reactions up to chance. A very interesting assumption, Brad Izo said casually, scratching his chin curiously. But also completely wrong and stupid to an extent. Now you've gone and upset Sasuke, just when I thought I was making some progress, Naruto pouted childishly. It's gonna take me forever to get back to conversing level with him again. Tsunami sent the remaining members of Team 7 apologetic looks before sending one final warning glare to her son. She was particularly upset with his actions so far. It didn't matter to her if he had a perfectly good reason to be upset. Acting in such a way towards people who he didn't know was not how she raised him to be. Shut up, Inari snapped. Stop acting as if nothing is wrong. Nothing is wrong, it's that simple. This is how the world works. There's good people and bad, life and death, love and loss. You can't possibly expect everything in your life to be good, can you? Naruto asked calmly. If everything was good, how would you learn appreciate it? But we don't have anything good. Our lives are miserable. The boy argued heatedly. Naruto went to say something, but was stopped by a grinning Izo. I think a more direct approach is needed here, he said vaguely. The blonde knew exactly what Izo intended to do, and so sat back and let him go. The older teen stood up from his chair, all the while grinning somewhat viciously at Inari. He had taken his coat off to eat, so that was thankfully not in the way as he casually stretched a bit and took off his ever-present scarf. Reaching down to the hem of his baggy shirt, he pulled the piece of clothing up and over his head, taking it off in one clean movement. The reactions of those present varied a little, but shock was the main expression that everyone, save Naruto, wore on their faces. Sakura had turned a little green and looked almost ready to shriek in surprise. Kakashi merely stared with his one wide eye, and Inari was gaping in horror at the sight before him. Although Izo was ripped, for a teenager anyway, no one was really paying attention to his extremely toned body. What caught everyone's eye were the scars. His arms were completely wrapped up in bandages, hiding them from view, but his torso and neck were in full view for everyone. He had one thick and rather nasty-looking scar that went across his neck and a massive Y-shaped scar on his chest, as if he had gone through a live autopsy. Which is exactly what he had been through. If not for him facing them all, they also would have seen the long scar that ran down the entire length of his spine. The large gash on his side was also visible, but it had mostly healed up completely by this point. This, kid, is the result of spending the first 10 years of my life as a literal lab rat. I'm sure if it weren't for his superpowered healing, Naruto would also have some scars to show off, but for now you'll just have to do with me, Izo said, enjoying Inari's speechlessness. The fact of the matter is that you can never truly assume how hard someone has had it in life. Take Kakashi for instance. His father killed himself and his teammates and sensei all died, and yet here he is, reading porn in a stranger's house. That is a life goal if I ever saw one. You couldn't just use Naruto for an example, could you? Kakashi droned. Hey, I only grew up as an orphan. The worst that happened to me was getting beaten by the villagers, and that only happened on a handful of occasions. Your story is much more heart-wrenching, Naruto countered firmly. You could have used Sasuke, the Jonin said childishly. He is going to be hard enough to deal with as it is. We do not need him finding out that we told his life tragedies to some little brat, Izo said. Good point. Continue, Kakashi replied as he went back to reading. During this whole time, Sakura just stared at Izo in a mixture of horror, disgust, and fear. As far as she was concerned, the elder Uzumaki should be dead. The scar across his neck looked more like it was torn open, not sliced, and the scar on his chest simply didn't seem real to her. She had checked to see if it was a genjutsu, but to no avail. Sakura was simply having a hard time coming to terms with what she was seeing. One thing, however, was definitely burned into her mind. Whatever Izo had gone through, it most certainly gave him an excuse to be as crazy as he was. She would never complain about his odd behavior again. Then there was the whole thing about Naruto getting beaten by villagers. She hadn't heard about that happening, and to be completely honest, she had thought he was just lying to make himself sound better. This idea though, was squashed since it was Kakashi who had brought up the subject of Naruto's hard life, and the Jonin hadn't disputed any of the blonde's claims. By this point, Sakura was content with staying silent and waiting everything out until she could find out more in such a way that didn't have the potential to backfire badly on her. Izo saw that the moment of showing off was over and so put his shirt back on, followed quickly by his scarf. Instead of sitting back down, he merely gave everyone a simple wave and walked outside to go and check on Sasuke. Someone needed to make sure that the kid didn't do something completely stupid. Tsunami watched him go with a sad look before she sent Inari to his room and went about cleaning up from dinner. Naruto made 2 shadow clones to help her out with whatever she needed before heading out to follow after Izo. Kakashi and Sakura ended up remaining silent for quite some time before eventually going to bed. Not a single one of them noticed that the corner of one of the picture frames in the room had frozen over and held the image of the ice slit of Haku's hunter nin mask. When Sasuke woke up the next morning, he knew instantly that something was wrong, and not just because he had chosen to sleep outside for the night. From what he could feel, this was not a simple wrong feeling, or even a sense of disturbance. No, this was the kind of feeling that something in existence itself had gone terribly wrong in some way. Trying to sit up, or even move in any way, proved impossible, as there was a considerable weight on his midsection. Having grown up being admired by so many fangirls, he could only come to bad conclusions as to what was on top of him. Opening his eyes, Sasuke found himself both horrified and relieved at the same time. Straddling his midsection was none other than the hunter nin that had taken Tazuna. The Uchiha was beyond thankful that it wasn't Sakura, or worse, one of the Uzumaki, but the 3 senbon that the hunter nin had in their hand made his moment of relief very short-lived. He was also very angry with himself for being caught in such a way. By all rights, he should have woken up as soon as the hunter nin touched him. "What's your name?" Haku asked curiously, seeing that Sasuke was now awake. The Uchiha responded by quickly pulling out a kunai and trying to stab the hunter nin, only for Haku to swat the attack away and stab Sasuke in the chest with one of his senbon. Pulling the small needle-like weapon out, he stabbed the Uchiha again. "Don't stab. Do stab. That. Stab," Haku said, reprimanding him as if he were a child. Sasuke just glared at him, to which Haku replied with yet another stab of his senbon. "Okay. I get it," Sasuke exclaimed, holding his hands up in defeat. Normally he would have put up more of a fight, but those stabs had really hurt. Haku nodded in acceptance as he shifted his weight a little, earning him an odd stare from Sasuke. If this at all bothered the ice user, he didn't show it, not that he could with his hunter nin mask still hiding his face. Still keeping a hold of his senbon, he gestured for Sasuke to do something, which was responded to with a questioning look. "What's your name?" Haku repeated the question softly, almost sighing at having to repeat the question. He honestly thought that even a Jonin could have figured out what he wanted. Sasuke Uchiha, the ice user, raised an eyebrow at that. "Uchiha?" he thought in surprise. They are supposed to be dead, or at least most of them. Just what kind of Jonin team is this? The last Hokage, an Uchiha, 2 Uzumaki war heroes, one of whom is a Jinchuriki. Hell, next they'll be saying that the pink-haired one is related to some hidden clan of cage killers. Needless to say, Haku was not getting any happier with the more he learned about the team. "Where are the Uzumaki?" he asked seriously. Sasuke grunted. "No idea," he answered. In truth, he actually had a pretty good idea of where they were, he just wasn't lowly enough to sell out a comrade, no matter how annoying they might be. He quickly sneered as the hunter nin seemed to prepare to stab him again, only for the sneer to turn into a wince as he clenched his still burned hand. A few quick stabs to his forearm, courtesy of Haku, and Sasuke's hand went completely limp. All the pain and discomfort from before was gone. With a raised eyebrow, the Uchiha stared cautiously at the ice user, wordlessly asking a question with his expression. "I need you focused, not whining about a burn. Now tell me, where are the Uzumaki?" Haku asked sternly. He would normally prefer to be much gentler about something so simple, but he was on a deadline, and so being blunt and direct was more favorable. "I told you. I don't." "No," Sasuke growled out, only to be stabbed again. "Stop doing that," he snapped. Haku stabbed him again. Answer the question no. Stab now, Haku said sharply. The Uchiha growled angrily at the hunter nin, almost considering just answering. Her? He still had no idea about the gender of the ice user, but from what he knew, he felt somewhat safe to say female. There was also the fact that he did not want to even consider that it was a boy straddling him. Why do you want to know? Sasuke asked curiously, trying to buy some time so he could work out how to escape, or better yet, to defeat and capture the hunter nin. My master has some questions for them. Sasuke's eyes widened a little. Zakira? She wants to talk to Naruto and Izo? He asked skeptically. Either one will do, Haku stated. Sorry, but no, the Uchiha said sternly. I don't plan on betraying them just so your master can sate her curiosity. While I respect your loyalty, I am not leaving without completing at least some of my mission. If I cannot contact either of them directly, then you will pass on a message, Haku said. Sasuke glared at him. What makes you think I will do anything you say? Haku stabbed one of his senbon into Sasuke's chest again, only this time he left it in and started bending it to the side, earning an expression of minor agony from the Uchiha. You will do as I say, he said warningly before pointing across to the other side of the small clearing, where a gagged Tazuna was tied to a tree. Sasuke's eyes widened. How the hell had he not noticed that? The bridge builder is to be returned to his family as a sign of goodwill. Tell the Uzumaki that we will be waiting for them. I believe that they should be able to find us easily enough should they look. If they do not seek us out themselves, then my master and I shall be at the bridge a week from now. We would prefer to not wait so long as Gato is becoming impatient with us, Haku explained calmly. Gato doesn't know you had Tazuna? Sasuke asked in confusion. No, the ice user answered simply. Why? We have our reasons, Haku replied vaguely. Now. You will take the bridge builder, tell the Uzumaki what I told you, and everything should be fine. With that said, Haku quickly stabbed Sasuke in the side of the neck, causing the Uchiha to go rigid and wide-eyed. The paralysis should last a short while. Sorry, but I'm not taking chances with you. Haku stood up off of Sasuke and casually walked over to a pre-made puddle of water. A few hand seals later and a large mirror of ice was hovering in front of him. Turning back to the glaring Uchiha, Haku pulled his mask up and winked at Sasuke before walking into the mirror and disappearing. Sasuke continued to glare at the place the hunter nin had been, even after the mirror had collapsed. A near non-existent blush crept onto his face as he realized that the hunter nin was most definitely a girl, judging by looks anyway, and a pretty good-looking one at that. If he wasn't paralyzed, he might have shuddered at the potential of her becoming another of his fangirls, but he figured that at least she would be one of the better-looking ones. You know that was a boy, right? Naruto asked suddenly as he appeared sitting next to him. Sasuke's eyes widened in horror as he stared almost pleadingly at the blonde. Please tell me you're lying, he all but begged. I don't know, Naruto. I mean, sure, Zakira said her apprentice was a boy, but I'm still hesitant to accept it. If it looks like a girl, smells like a girl, sort of acts like a girl, then it's a girl, Izo said thoughtfully as he appeared on the other side of Sasuke. Yes, I suppose he also straddled Sasuke like a girl too, but I'm still inclined to say she is still, in fact, a he, the blonde said. I think we should ask Sasuke about the details, Izo suggested as both he and Naruto turned to stare curiously at the Uchiha. What are you talking about? Sasuke asked in confusion. Well, you were just being straddled, surely you felt if there was a package of some sort around that area, the elder Uzumaki stated casually. Sasuke narrowed his eyes slightly before coming to the shocking realization that he actually had felt something. His eyes widened slowly until his entire face had twisted into an expression of pure horror and disgust. And now we have our answer, Naruto said with a grin. So how did it feel, Sasuke? To be straddled and manhandled by another boy? He asked. The glare that Sasuke aimed at the blonde almost made him want to retract his question. Almost. Don't be mean, Naruto. We should not judge Sasuke by his sexual preferences. He is his own person, and we must respect that, Izo said sincerely, putting his hand comfortingly on the Uchiha's shoulder. Whatever floats your boat, I will kill both of you, Sasuke growled angrily. Sounds lovely. Will your new boyfriend be there? Naruto asked cheerfully. Now, brother. Perhaps their relationship has yet to reach the point where he wants to introduce his better half to his teammates, Naruto pouted. Why not? We're delightful, you're both insufferable, Sasuke muttered. Oh well. I suppose we can just let Sasuke dwell on the thought for a while. Can't have him making such big decisions in such a hurry, now can we? Izo said as he stood up and walked over to Tazuna. I guess you're right, Naruto said with a childish pout as he got up and followed his brother. Stop talking about me like I'm not here. The Uchiha said sharply. "Take care of yourself, Sasuke. See you back at the house," Izo said happily, as he waved over enthusiastically before disappearing in a sunshine. Naruto gave the Uchiha a half-assed salute before grabbing Tazuna and also disappearing in a sunshine. It took a few moments for the reality of things to finally sink in, but once they did, Sasuke found that he was more furious than he had ever been before. "Don't you dare leave me out here alone, you bastards," he yelled angrily, receiving no response at all, as he continued to lay there in petrified horror. Quite literally. "So, Zakira's apprentice just handed Tazuna back?" Kakashi asked skeptically. "Yes," Naruto and Izo said in unison. "But they handed him back to Sasuke, whom you left paralyzed and slightly injured in the middle of a clearing in the woods," the Jonin droned. "Yes," the boys said in unison again. "You aren't even listening to me anymore, are you?" "Yes," they said once again. Kakashi sighed. "Perfect. Now I have to go and find Sasuke before something really bad happens. Why did I agree to take on a Jonin team? What was I thinking?" He questioned himself as he walked off in search of Sasuke. "Do you think that will show up on Kakashi's mission report?" Izo asked curiously. "More than likely," Naruto said. Izo took a moment to think about that before simply shrugging and walking off. "Where are you going?" Naruto asked. "No idea. Maybe I'll clean my sword, maybe I'll send Kurotsuchi an anonymous love letter," the older teen mused thoughtfully. Naruto's sweat dropped. "You sure that's a good idea?" I guess not. She and I do not have a very good chemistry. Such a shame, she really is quite cute. Perhaps Anko would be more interesting to mess with. You try that, and I might have to start calling you sister after she finishes castrating you," Naruto droned before shuddering violently. Izo was bad enough as a guy, let alone a girl. The mere thought of that was near nightmare-inducing. "Anko isn't that bad," Izo tried to argue. "I heard she violated a guy with her snake summons during an interrogation because he sneezed." "Because he sneezed?" "Izo, take a moment to think about that," the blonde said. "Oh, I'm thinking about it. So far, I'm only hearing good things about her. By the way, have you even seen her smile? Trust me bro, that thing is to kill for. Somehow, she makes it so beautifully innocent and sexually teasing at the same time. That is truer if I've ever seen it," Izo explained. "What the hell are you talking about? You haven't even seen her smile," Naruto exclaimed. "Well, no, I haven't. But I was in its presence, and that is a whole lot more than you can say." Naruto stared blankly at his older sibling. "You're an idiot," he stated bluntly. "Just try not to do anything too stupid. I will not be the one mopping up your corpse if you get her angry," Izo snorted. Whatever, he said dismissively before biting his thumb and clicking his fingers. In a small burst of smoke, a sizable dog-like animal was sitting at his feet. It was an odd tan color with black paws and was wearing a strange vest made of multiple straps and belts to which numerous scrolls were all strapped. It seemed to regard Izo lazily before glancing around with equal enthusiasm, not so much as stopping for a moment on Naruto. Izo sat down on the grass suddenly. "Take note, Flapjack. We have a love letter to write," he exclaimed cheerfully. The canine glared at him. "For the last time, my name is not Flapjack," it growled angrily. "And do you not think that my services would be wasted on something as stupid as your love life?" Izo, what is that?" Naruto asked in surprise. "Huh? Oh, this is Flapjack. He's the messenger of the dingo summons," Izo explained quickly. Naruto just stared at his brother and the dingo in shock. "It's a real thing? How the hell is it a real thing? Why have I not seen any of these things before?" he asked. "Because you didn't need to," the blindfolded boy answered simply. "Honestly, did you think I was just going to use my summons for every menial task? I thought that I would have at least seen one of these things over the 6 years that I've known you," Naruto growled. "And you thought wrong. That isn't the point," the blonde snapped. "Don't fall into the trap," the dingo said warningly. "He does this? If you give in, you lose," it said. "And you are?" Naruto asked curiously. Akuma the canine answered simply. "No, your name is Flapjack," Izo said sternly. "Continue to call me that and I will never answer your summons again," Akuma threatened. "However, as I am already here, I suppose I will deliver this message for you. Next time though, I expect to be referred to by my name and shown the right amount of respect." Yeah, whatever. "Just write down what I say," Izo said with a dismissive wave of his hand. Naruto sighed and began walking away from his brother. There were far more important things to than listen to Izo relay a message to a dingo for a love letter. As he was walking to the house, he realized that he had yet to actually see Sakura at all today. Considering how much she had worn herself out the day before, Naruto didn't really expect her to be up to anything more than resting. Deciding to check in on her, if only to make sure she hadn't actually gone too far with training, he turned and headed for the house. Entering the house, he expertly navigated around the room in which Tazuna, Tsunami, and Inari were all having an emotional moment. He didn't want to get in the way of the family bonding time after all. Making his way upstairs, he casually walked into the room that Sakura and Kakashi had been staying in. The sight he walked in on was not exactly what he had expected. Sakura was sitting in the middle of the room with her legs crossed and her eyes closed in concentration, a single kunai balanced perfectly on one of her fingers. Normally Naruto would be pleased to see that the pink cat was actually training for once, as he had been the past few days, but he was more concerned now than anything else. People, especially teenagers, did not just up and change how they worked within a couple of days. For Sakura, the ultimate fangirl, such a change was more of a warning sign. Sitting down in front of her, making sure not to disrupt her focus, he observed her keenly in hopes to pick up anything at all that could help him figure out why she had changed so suddenly. After a few moments, he found nothing, except for the fact that her nose kept twitching whenever she almost lost concentration. Reaching over, he hooked a finger into the loop at the end of the kunai and lifted it from her finger, causing her to open her eyes quickly and gasp in surprise. "Naruto?" she asked quickly. "Yo," the blonde greeted lazily. "What are you doing here?" Naruto smiled and handed her kunai back to her. "Just checking up on you, as teammates do," he said casually. "You alright?" Sakura smiled unsurely. Yeah, I'm fine. I was just practicing chakra control. I know Kakashi said I have near-perfect control anyway, but it doesn't hurt to be better, right?" she said. I suppose not. You do need a break from the physical training anyway. But I do have to ask, why are you training?" Naruto asked curiously. "What do you mean?" Sakura asked nervously. "Isn't that what we are supposed to do to get stronger?" The way she spoke made it sound like she was really trying to brush it off as Naruto having asked a very stupid question, but she had failed in that regard. "Sakura, before a few days ago, you had absolutely no interest in training at all. Actually, you would often complain about having to do it in general. So, again, why are you training?" the Jinchuriki asked calmly. "Well, that was just bad timing. Yeah. Just bad timing. I wasn't in the right mind frame for it back then, but I'm all good now," the pink cat exclaimed happily. Naruto quirked an eyebrow at her before sighing deeply. "Look, Sakura, I know that most people would not really care about this, and I would normally not care about it either. But you cannot suddenly go from not training at all to trying to compete with someone like Sasuke. Kakashi-sensei won't say anything, probably because he is more concerned about your physical survival at the moment, but you need to slow down. Pace yourself, work your way up first, don't dive headfirst into the deep end," he said in a lecturing tone. Sakura's fake cheerfulness finally broke as she glared at the bond. "Pace myself?" she asked sharply. "I almost died. How can I do anything but jump in the deep end when we're stuck in the deep end? Ever since this team started doing missions I have been so left out, it's almost a joke. Missing Nin, Jinchuriki, Kekkei Genkai users, how am I supposed to hold up against that? I was put out of the fight so fast by that hunter Nin that it was barely even any effort at all on their part. Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke-kun, neither of them could save me, neither of them even cared." By this point she had tears slowly forming in the corners of her eyes. "What good am I if I can't even look after myself?" she muttered sadly. Naruto stared blankly at her. "Are you done now?" he asked bluntly. The girl sniffled slightly and nodded her head, wiping the barely shed tears from her eyes. "Good. Now, just to clarify something. It's not so much that Kakashi and Sasuke didn't care, it's more that they couldn't afford to care at the time. They were in a fight, Sakura. Yes, looking out for your teammates is something we are all taught to do, but there is no point in carrying on about their death when your own life is still on the line. There is a time for fighting and a time for mourning, and neither go hand in hand. That being said, I don't want you to linger on that anymore, okay?" he explained calmly. Sakura nodded her head in understanding. "Okay," she replied meekly. "As for the training, again, you need to pace yourself. You will be less than useless if you just wear yourself out every chance you get. Train what you can for now, but focus more when we get back to the village. If you need any help, ask Kakashi. If he can't help you directly, then I'm sure he can at least direct you to someone who can," Naruto said casually. "But what can I even train in? The only thing I have is my chakra control," Sakura said unsurely. Naruto shrugged. "Up to you in the end. Chakra control would suit genjutsu or medical jutsu. But you could always find a way to increase your reserve so you can do other things. If you really want a challenge, I guess you could apply your good chakra control and book smarts into learning Fuinjutsu. I actually have a few books that I could lend you if you want to follow that path, he suggested. Fuinjutsu? The girl asked skeptically. You think I could learn that? If Izo can become an unofficial seal master, then you can at least become adequate in the art, the blonde droned. The important part is just to make sure you haven't smudged anything before you channel chakra into it. I tried learning it once and made that exact mistake. Took me an entire 3 days to grow back my arm. You grew back your arm? Sakura asked in disgusted horror, her eyes flicking rapidly back and forth between each of the Jinchuriki's arms. I walked away from having my neck snapped mere days ago and you're freaking out about me regrowing a limb? Naruto asked in annoyance. That is completely different. Healing an injury is one thing, but regenerating entire limbs, that's just gross, she said with a disgusted expression. You aren't making me any keener to help you, the blonde drawled irritably. Oh. Sorry, Sakura said sheepishly. It's not gross, it's, cool? Yeah. It's cool. Just regrowing body parts. Out of nothing. All the disgusting flesh. The blood. The bones all sticking out. She stopped and turned a little green at the thoughts before noticing Naruto's very unimpressed expression. Sorry, Naruto took a deep breath. It's okay. I agree with you on most of it. It really is an unpleasant experience. Just don't talk about it anymore, he said. Now, I'll let you get back to your chakra exercises. If you need me, I will be outside somewhere or helping Sasuke out with something. Remember, don't push yourself too hard. There's no need to stress yourself out just yet. With that said, Naruto waved a goodbye to the pink cat and walked out of the room, closing the door behind him as he went. He hoped that he had done some good in talking to Sakura. In the end though, it was really up to her as to what she did from here on. If she was smart though, she would find something to specialize in quickly. Ninja did not have the luxury of spending years deciding on what they wished to do. After a very short walk, he entered the room in which he, Izo, and Sasuke were staying, only to come face to face with a rather short individual garbed in a plain black traveling cloak and a blank dark green Anbu mask. The Anbu was sitting casually atop one of the beds in the room, leaning against the wall that said bed was up against. They both stared at each other for a few moments before Naruto closed the door and pressed his hand up against the doorframe. With a small pulse of chakra, he sealed the room completely and placed a dampening seal on the room. He would have made it completely silent had he been proficient enough in sealing, but he wasn't, and Izo wasn't around to do it for him. Hello, Naruto, the Anbu greeted politely. Naruto grinned. Hey, Yagura, he said cheerfully. Yagura reached up, removed his Anbu mask, and stared lazily at the blonde with his pink pupilless eyes, the action being in contradiction to the smile that he also wore. It has been a while, he said casually, somehow still managing to sound overly polite. Yeah, sorry about that. I meant to catch up with you at some point, I just got kind of caught up with other things, Naruto said sheepishly. I heard. Don't worry. I understand your reasoning. Apparently the Nanabi gave you some issues, the ex-Mizukage said in mild amusement. Naruto groaned slightly. Don't even talk about it. She tried to kill us straight away, didn't even give us a chance to talk before attacking, he said. You should be used to that treatment by now. Did I not react the same way when we first met? The shorter of the two Jinchuriki asked. Yes, you did. But you were not in control of your own actions at the time. You know, super genjutsu and all. That, and you only had 3 tails of Baijuu chakra to use. Fu went ballistic and almost lost control altogether. Naruto winced as he remembered just how hard the girl had managed to hit him during that fight. He would not be getting on her bad side anytime soon, he was sure of that. Is she within Konoha? Yagura asked curiously. Yeah. We took her straight back and are in the process of getting her instated into the Shinobi forces, the blonde replied. Will she be orchestrated into the plans? Naruto frowned. I'm not too sure just yet. She is the Jinchuriki of the Nanabi, so I don't see us just passing up that kind of power. The only problem is that she has minimal experience and no actual control over her power. Sure, she is highly attuned to the Baijuu, but she has no idea on how to truly utilize its chakra in any other way save for physical enhancement, he explained. Could you not train her? Surely it will be a simple process if she is already so attuned to the beast's chakra. If you are not up for the job, I will gladly take the role of teacher. Anything is better than being permanently situated as a spy in water country, Yagura muttered the last part irritably. Yeah, I could teach her, but I'm not sure if she is ready to be introduced to that kind of training. She barely has enough experience with her emotions to properly condition her anyway, the blonde said. Is it an actual issue on her part, or is this merely you being unwilling to bring her into what we are planning? The ex-Mizukage asked seriously. Naruto grinned sheepishly. A little of both I suppose, he answered with a chuckle. Yagura shook his head but continued to smile. You are still too caring, Naruto. Even after all of the bad things I did in my past, you were still so prepared to forgive me, yet hesitant to drag me into things, he said. Yeah, but you ended up being happy to join us anyway, insistent actually, Naruto said. All I had to do was ask you to help and you jumped at the chance exactly. Perhaps you should not think so much about deciding what you feel is best for this, and instead ask her for her own thoughts. Explain things to her, and then ask if she is willing to join us. At worst, you can simply get Izo to keep her silent with seals, Yagura lectured. Yeah, I guess you're right, Naruto said with a sigh. Yagura quickly got off of the bed and walked up to Naruto. Anyway, what did you summon me for? He asked. Naruto pulled out a small scroll and handed it to his fellow Jinchuriki. I am going to assume that you know about Gato. Well, we are going to need you to deal with him and his goons at some point over the next week. I suggest you be careful though. Izo says that there is very likely at least one member of Akatsuki somewhere in the area, and also the matter of one of your old subordinates. Yagura quirked an eyebrow at that. Who might that be? Zakira Momochi. She and her apparent apprentice, who also appears to be from the Yuki clan, have gone under the employment of Gato. I wouldn't worry too much about them since they appear to be trying to contact us for some reason, probably to negotiate some terms of some sort. We'll have to see how it plays out, the blonde said. Zakira was always far too stubborn and honorable to simply run from an agreement or betray an employer. I was an exception when she attempted to kill me, but I do not blame her for that. The young-looking man glanced down at the scroll and tucked it away under his cloak. I will deal with Gato soon. The man was starting to become a problem even whilst I still served as Mizukage. It will be quite a relief to finally be rid of him, Naruto chuckled. Don't get too carried away. Can't have you going too chakra happy in such a small town, Yagura smirked before putting his mask back on. With a curt nod, he made a hand seal and disappeared in a mist sunshine. Naruto sauntered over and collapsed onto the bed, letting out a tired sigh as he closed his eyes and waited for sleep to embrace him. He and Izo had stayed up most of the night keeping an eye on Sasuke and keeping an eye out for whichever Akatsuki member was lurking around. He figured he had earned at least a short nap before getting back into anything too drastic. He was subconsciously thankful that he had not unsealed the room before sleeping, lest he be interrupted and forced to hurt someone. Namely Izo. A week later, things had gone well, too well almost. Despite the invitation, neither Naruto nor Izo had gone in search for Sakura and her apprentice. Nothing had happened so far, so everyone just assumed that the woman was holding to her plan of waiting a week, which would mean there would be some form of meeting sometime today. Tazuna had wasted no time at all in getting to work on the bridge, even in spite of his sudden kidnapping and return. Apparently, Zakira had kept him quite drunk for most of his time with her, so he had nothing to truly complain about. Everyone was still impressed by his persistence and ability to simply shrug off his problems and get on with the work that needed to be done. So far, he had made some impressive progress with the bridge, seemingly making up for lost time. Sakura and Sasuke had not wasted the week either, both having trained themselves as best they could. Sasuke had almost mastered the fire chakra exercise to an acceptable level, or at least to the point where he no longer burned himself on the metal dish. He still wasn't very happy about not being able to progress to the next stage, but when he found that the tree climbing exercise was much easier after his own chakra training, he quickly forgot about his irritation. Sakura wasn't too far behind either. She had continued to practice her chakra control until it was the closest thing to perfect that she could get, and then just spent her time trying her luck at physical exercise. She had a few moments of weakness when Sasuke was around, but was otherwise quite committed to bettering herself. At some point over the past few days, Gato had mysteriously gone missing after a freak flooding at his mansion. There had been no sign of any of his goons after that, and there had been no word of the troll himself since. Many of the locals were expecting Gato to reappear at some point or for someone worse to come along and take over. It had taken a couple of days, but eventually the villagers had gone ahead and raided Gato's mansion of valuables, which they had found all of which had been left perfectly untouched. They had then gone and used said valuables to reinstate some economic stability into the village. It had still been less than a week, so progress was snail-paced at best, but at least it was a start on things. Fortunately, there had been absolutely no word of anyone spotting someone who matched Akatsuki's description, so that was a definite bonus in Naruto's books. He still didn't let his guard down though. Sure, he and Izo should be capable of picking up any of its members before they got too close, but the harsh truth was that the Shinobi villages did not just hand out S-rank classifications without justified reasons. It was entirely possible for one or more of Akatsuki to be experts in espionage and infiltration. The next problem was that of Zakira and her apprentice, which Naruto had no doubt would be settled quite soon as he and the rest of Team 7 all escorted Tazuna to the bridge. Sakura was the only member missing, having decided to stay back and keep guard of Tsunami and Inari. Everyone else had been slightly ashamed to have not put that possibility into consideration. But as it was now, Tazuna was easily the best protected civilian within a 50-mile radius. Reaching the bridge, they were not at all surprised to find it engulfed in a blanket of mist. After a few seconds, the mist cleared slightly, revealing that all of the workers that had been there that day were unconscious and stacked into a small pile off to the side. All of them appeared to have been victim of multiple small needle-like weapons courtesy of the ice user. "You're late," Zakira snapped irritably, appearing suddenly within the mist with the hunter Nin at her side. Sorry about that. You see, there was a black cat that crossed our path, so we had to take the long way," Kakashi said in a bored tone. Zakira's eyebrow twitched violently as a tick mark appeared on her head. "You still make those lame excuses? After all these years?" she growled. "He uses them all the time. It's best to just ignore them," Izo said offhandedly. The swordswoman grunted as she unhooked her massive sword from its belt and stabbed it into the ground next to her, revealing that it was once again back to being complete and seemingly undamaged. "There," she said, letting go of the hilt. "No weapon. Now can we just talk?" she asked seriously. "That depends. What do you wish to talk about?" Naruto asked curiously. "You know damn well what I want to talk about, brat. You and that brother of yours have some question you need to answer. The others can stick around if you want, but one way or another, you will be telling me what I want to know," the woman said. "Is that a threat?" Izo asked curiously, a vicious grin etched on his face. "If it needs to be," Zakira growled as her hand moved slightly close to the hilt of her sword. Izo Naruto growled. "Don't be stupid," he warned before turning to Kakashi and Sasuke. "Sorry about this, but we apparently need to talk to her alone right now. We should be back soon," he said with a wave before casually walking over to Zakira, Izo following suit while grumbling about bossy little brothers. Sasuke glared angrily at Haku for the entire time since he had revealed himself. Even as Naruto and Izo walked up to them and they all got ready to leave. His glare only faltered when, just before leaving in a sunshine, Haku waved to him and made the gesture of blowing a kiss to him. To say Sasuke was horrified would be an understatement. He was beyond terrified, even more so than he had been when witnessing his family's murder. "Looks like you have another admirer, eh Sasuke?" Kakashi said in amusement, having noticed the interaction between the two. "Sensei. How bad can they be?" Sasuke asked shakily. How bad can who be?" the Jonin asked. "Fanboys," the Uchiha said, the very word sending a chill up his spine. Kakashi's eye widened in shock and horror as he snapped his Icha book closed and placed a comforting hand on his student's shoulder, tears clearly forming in his one visible eye. "It was a pleasure knowing you, Sasuke. May your death be quick and painless," he said sadly. "Now, if you will excuse me, I need to get out the death zone," he added quickly before literally sprinting to the other side of the bridge. Sasuke just stood there in confusion before pouting angrily. "Jackass," he muttered before walking over and sitting on the railing on the side of the bridge. "Didn't have to be so stupid about it," he grumbled. "Do you know the new Mizukage?" Zakira asked the two boys seriously, all of them having appeared standing atop some random spot of the ocean surrounding the land of waves. Naruto quirked an eyebrow. "Why do you want to know?" he asked curiously. "Look kid, I've been on the run for quite a long time now. Normally, I wouldn't even care about that as I am more than capable of looking after myself, but this isn't about just me anymore. I can't continue to look out for both Haku and myself while Kiri still has a bounty on my head. So, I want to know if there is any way for Haku to be allowed into Kiri now that the civil war is finally over," the woman said. "Nope." Izo replied cheerfully, earning an elbow to the ribs from Naruto. "What my brother meant to say, is that there is unfortunately no way for either of you to be allowed back into Kiri. We tried to do that with someone once before and it turned out badly. Haku, while not an actual missing nin, has been in your service for a few years now, if my guess is right, and so can be viewed as an accessory to you and your crimes. The new Mizukage, fortunately, would be more than happy to make an arrangement. It's just that the arrangement would not be something you would expect," Naruto explained casually. "What do you mean?" Zakira asked in confusion. "Well, Basically, the new Mizukage is quite accepting and understanding, it's just that the rest of the village has yet to truly change for the better. They're getting there, but it's just not quite ready yet. In regards to Haku, whom I assume is from the Yuki clan, he would have almost no problem being placed into the village thanks to Mei, the new Mizukage, being a Kekkei Genkai possessor as well. But I don't think he wants to be separated from you, Naruto said, turning to look questioningly at the ice user. Haku nodded. That would be preferable. I would much rather stay with Zakura-sama than go to Karagakure, the boy said. Zakura sighed. This is not about what you want, Haku, it is about what is best for you and me. I cannot look out for you like I used to, I understand that. But I don't care. I would rather stay with you and be in constant danger than be safe and alone in a village, the ice user stated calmly. Look, as sweet as this is, we have a time limit here, so can we move this along, Izo said irritably. I kinda have to agree on that. I imagine Kakashi will get a bit nosy if we take too long, Naruto said. Anyway, since there is no way for you two to separate without some long-winded farewell that will no doubt annoy even me, I'm going to give you both an opportunity. I will give you some stable and relatively safe work, during which you will be loosely loyal to Kiri. There is an odd kind of agreement between Konoha and Mei at the moment, so you would only be reporting to her directly, Naruto explained. And how, pray tell, are we supposed to report to the Mizukage when we can't even enter the village? Zakura asked sharply. Also, what would we even be doing? Well, you would be acting as spies within Water Country for our organization, and also probably handling any potential Black Op missions that Mei might give you. As for how you would be contacting her, well, that would require some assistance. As you may know, the best way to get in touch with someone who is usually locked up in the cage's office, is through someone who knows their way around said office, the blonde replied. But who would know the Mizukage's office well enough to infiltrate it regularly? Haku asked curiously. A midget, Izo snickered. I am not a midget. A voice yelled from a fair distance away. Zakura froze as her one remaining eye widened in shock, horror, and a little disbelief. Her fears were proven to be justified as a short individual clad in a traveling cloak and green Anbu mask appeared in front of Izo with a long hook-ended staff reared back in preparation to hit the blindfolded teen. Take it back, Yagura demanded. Or what? You gonna hit me? Izo taunted. Don't know if you remember this, but last time you did that, I dropped a fucking island on your head. Don't think I won't do it again, midget, he threatened. Izo. You are not destroying another island. And no, I do not care what the reason is, Naruto snapped. Izo pouted and crossed his arms. Ruin all my fun, why don't you, I said. Take it back, Yagura growled. And I say no, the teen replied. Whack how. You little shit. Give me that stick so I can ram it up your ass. Zakura watched as Izo chased the unfortunately short man around angrily, her eyes staying wide in disbelief the entire time. She turned slowly to look at Naruto, who was doing his best to not acknowledge the interaction between his brother and the Anbu. Him? The woman hissed. You want us to team up with him? Yes, Naruto answered simply. He's a monster. He started the bloodline purges and he almost killed me. How can you expect me to work with him? How do I know that he won't try to kill Haku? She asked, glaring quite openly at the Anbu. Okay, to be fair, the things everyone thinks he did weren't actually his fault. That being said, he still wasn't the most caring of people. I mean, he did keep that brutal graduation exam going after he got into office, the blonde said with a frown. Zakura sighed pleasantly as she remembered her own graduation day. Good times, she said with a smile before quickly scowling again. What the hell do you mean it wasn't actually his fault? There were things. Let's just say that there are bigger things at play here. If you want to know more, I suggest you ask him. Right now, me and Izo need to get going. We have already been talking for too long as it is, Naruto replied. You can still refuse this offer and go your own way, but I would suggest you take it. We could use people like you and Haku, he added before turning to Izo and Yagura, whom were both trying to strangle each other. Izo. We're leaving. Stop trying to kill him, Izo groaned deeply in irritation as he dropped the vertically challenged man. Fine. But first I want to know what he did with the troll, the older teen said angrily. Naruto raised an eyebrow and looked curiously at Yagura. What did you do to Gato? He asked. Yagura chuckled as he removed his mask. He's back in the village. I thought I would give the villagers something to remember, and also perhaps a warning to anyone else who thinks of doing the same, he said with an almost evil smirk. It was a little hard to take him seriously considering his height and young appearance. Oh, so it was you who flooded the mansion. Thanks a lot, now I don't get paid, Zakura muttered. Can we not start an argument over money? We will leave you to sort this out yourselves. And for the love of Kami, don't kill each other. It was hard enough getting just one spy in Water Country, we do not need him and two more potentials to die over something stupid, Naruto said irritably. Whatever, Zakira snarled. Come on then, Mizukage-sama, you have a lot of explaining to do, she growled, spitting the title angrily. She paused suddenly and pointed at Izo. And you? You owe me an eye. I owe a lot of people a lot of things, and ain't any of them getting anything from me, the teen replied childishly. You want your eye back? Then go out and get it yourself. Seriously, eye transplants aren't even a big deal anymore. I'm almost concerned by how ridiculously simple the whole procedure is. Actually, I'm like 3% sure that you can just pull them the fuck out and jam them into your own skull. This, Izo, is why you don't have an official medical license, Naruto grumbled. No. I don't have that because I decided to replace that guy's fingers with his toes. Completely different anatomical transplantation, Izo said. And now you're just rambling a bunch of big words to make yourself sound smart, the blonde drawled. Turning to Yagura and Zakira, he sighed. We're leaving, he stated simply, giving the two a slight bow and nodding to Haku before flashing over to Izo in an instant, grabbing onto the older teen, and disappearing in a flash of red. Was that the Hiruzen? Zakira asked, dumbfounded by what she had seen. Sure, she had sort of seen it during their fight, but there was still a lot of mist around and she had brushed it off as a really fast and improvised sunshine. Yes, it was, Yagura answered. Let's go somewhere more private and secure. We have a lot to discuss, he said as he started walking to the shoreline. Zakira gestured for Haku to follow him, but didn't let her guard drop for an instant. She would hear Yagura out, for now, but she still wouldn't be anywhere near ready to trust him anytime soon. When Naruto and Izo arrived back at the bridge, they noticed that Kakashi and Sasuke were keeping away from each other, or rather, Kakashi was steering clear of Sasuke as best he could. Tazuna had ignored their arrival completely and continued with building the bridge with the rest of the workers who were now not incapacitated. Izo shrugged and sauntered off to find somewhere to entertain himself, probably by destroying something, while Naruto walked up to Tazuna. Hey, old man, how long will it take you to finish this bridge? He asked. Tazuna grunted at the disrespect. Another week at least, brat. Why don't you make yourself useful and keep an eye out like you're supposed to? Naruto furrowed his brow thoughtfully. Another week in this place was not something he wanted to live through, especially after everyone started celebrating about Gato being officially dead. He didn't doubt that Yagura had made quite the spectacle out of the tycoon. The ex-Kage did have quite a cruel streak when he needed to. How many workers would you need to cut that down to 2 days? The blonde asked suddenly. 2 days? Tazuna asked skeptically. I would need over 100 fit and ready workers to do that, and in case you haven't noticed, Wave is not really fit to supply that kind of labor, he replied. The Jinchuriki smirked and placed his hands into a cross-hand seal. Shadow clone jutsu, he said almost smugly. With a large burst of smoke that almost engulfed the entire bridge, near 200 clones of Naruto appeared, all wearing the same smug smirk as they looked expectantly towards the bridge builder. You give the orders, we do the work, he stated simply, grinning at Tazuna's dumbfounded expression. Now I can get back to old man Hokage sooner and ask about this sealing key, he thought seriously, as Tazuna quickly began ordering the clones around enthusiastically. There was no way in hell he would be staying in Wave for another whole week. Konan pursed her lips slightly as she observed the Kyuubi Jinchuriki go about working on the bridge. The mere quantity of clones the boy could create was astounding, even by her standards, and they all also appeared to be of sturdy quality. She assumed that his chakra reserves would have to be enormous, even without the added fuel of the Baiju's chakra. Not quite to Kisame's level, but close enough to raise concern. Her amber eyes flickered over to watch Izo cautiously. That one had managed to pick up on her being in the area, which she was almost certain shouldn't have been possible without something akin to the Byakugan. There was also the fact that she couldn't sense him at all, and any attempt at sending one of her origami construct to spy on him had ended in her finding literally nothing at all. Her attempts at doing the same for the Jinchuriki had also failed, but that was simply because the small amount of her chakra was quickly overpowered and drowned out by the blonde zone before her origami could return to her. It had taken her a shamefully long time to figure that fact out. She continued to watch the Jinan team for several minutes. She was already aware of the pink-haired one being back at the bridge builder's house, so she wasn't worried about that one. To be completely honest, Konan hadn't learned very much at all aside from the Jinchuriki's chakra levels and the other one's apparent sensing skill. Her mission had originally been to persuade Gato into either funding Akatsuki, or to offer their services to him in the future for the right price. Neither had been truly successful, as the tycoon had all but laughed in her face at the idea of funding them, and even said that the only thing he would hire them for was for her personally to please his men. Needless to say, Conan was almost tempted to relay that message to Pain and watch the destruction unfold. It was pointless now. Gato and his goons had been wiped out on a single night, by one person wearing an unidentified Anbu mask. She had no idea who they were, or whom they were working for, but she did know that the only organization that worked like Anbu without being directly linked to a hidden village was the root foundation of Konoha. The idea of Danzo having a hand in any of this angered her, as it would no doubt Pain. Shaking her head of those thoughts, she quickly began walking away and into the nearby expanse of trees. As she went, her cloak and skin began to lose their color, taking on a white pigment and gaining numerous lines all over their surface. A few moments later, Conan burst into a large cloud of small paper squares that all quickly began flying off through the forest. She needed to report her findings to Pain as soon as possible.
That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.